Well, another week and another win for the Trojans, 5-0 to start the season for first time in back-to-back in quite some time. Some people will tell you that a win is not a win. A lot of people were disappointed with last week's win, but I will tell you it's about winning and advancing, and USC is doing that. This here, you guys, is it. This is the show you want. A lot of you guys wanted a place you can call in, give us your thoughts. This is the Conquest call-in show where it is all about you guys. This is viewer-driven. We want you guys to tell us what you want to talk about when it comes to the Trojans. We have a few topics to throw out there, starting with, is this going to be a trap game or is it a get-right game? Also, we want to hear from you guys about the linebacking situation. You know, the linebacker situation, there's a lot of people not happy with who's playing, who's not playing, who's hurt, who's not hurt. That's a topic of discussion we can get into. And then the third major point we want to talk about tonight is they just released the opponents for the 2024 season in the Big Ten. Love to hear you guys' thoughts. Maybe, you know, who's a team you're looking forward to in the 2024 season, as well as what away game are you looking forward to going to the most? With that, though, we're bringing in Matt. Matt, thanks again. How are you doing this week?
Doing all right. Plenty of news to talk about. We have a lot of news items circulating right now. It's Arizona week, so this is not going to be a feature game in college football this weekend. But I mean, there's lots of things surrounding the Pac-12, USC, and of course now the Big Ten opponents list. We're definitely going to talk about that. So plenty going on. So it's good to be busy in October. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, so there are a lot of questions this week, especially in some of the media scrums about Eric Gentry. It looks like just statistically, there's some guys that are struggling with tackling on the team in the linebacking position. For a while, we thought it was going to be, Mason Cobb and Eric Gentry holding down the Will and the Mike linebacking positions for this team. But it looks like we've had anything but that. We've had true freshman Tackett Curtis playing well at times, showing his youth at other times. Matt, who would you like to see starting at both positions?
I mean, I think at this point, are you ready to throw Tackett Curtis into the fire against Notre Dame? And, I'm not sure about that. But I would say that, and I did mention this before the Colorado game a week ago, if the coaching staff isn't sure who should be the starter, I don't have a really firm opinion, but I'm going to say this, this is my ultimate view of it, because this is something I said a week ago, and I still very much believe in it now. If the coaching staff is unsure, who are the ones, who are the twos, who are the big dogs, who are the backups, who are the guys it can really lean on and depend on? If the coaching staff isn't sure, all right, the guys who've been getting the reps through 5 weeks, they need to have a secondary role in this Arizona game. And you need to give other guys a chance to get more reps, a longer look on film. And why? Why would that be the case? It's because essentially, not technically, but essentially, the season begins with that Notre Dame game in a week. And this Arizona game is like the final game of the first half of the season. It's the final installment of the preliminaries. This is the final preliminary game, basically, of the season. And then you're going to have 4 king-size games in 5 weeks, the Cal game being the one exception. If you don't have answers, give other guys significant run. Give other guys significant playing time. Now, is there a risk attached to that? Of course there is. But this is the last game, other than Cal, this is the last game in which you can take the field saying, you know what, we can make a few mistakes, a few guys can have some learning experiences, and we can still win. It's that kind of situation. And the coaching staff did that against Arizona State in a very tangible way when it played Mason Cobb, knowing he wasn't 100%. He had been injured the previous 2 weeks. Then you had the off week on September 16th. So the coaching staff knew that Mason Cobb was going to be rusty. The coaching staff knew Mason Cobb was going to make some mistakes, but it considered the value of playing Cobb, getting him back into playing shape, as being more important than reducing mistakes as much as humanly possible. And that calculation turned out to be really good and productive for this team, because USC was able to beat Arizona State even with Mason Cobb not playing well. the coaching staff did achieve the objective of building his fitness base, getting him back into the flow of live action. And then the next week, what does he do? He plays really well against Colorado. It's like the coaching staff nailed that one. There are lots of things bad with this coaching staff. I've talked about them. You've talked about them. But Mason Cobb is something that the staff got right. And it made the calculation, you know what? We can take the risk of playing him and making some mistakes against the caliber of opponent we're facing. So this Arizona game is that last game before the Notre Dame-Utah double stack. So if they're not sure, give other guys more reps so that you have more to evaluate going into Notre Dame. And if you have more information to look at, you can make a better, more informed choice as a coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like Mason Cobb came to that game. He got a lot of stick for the previous ASU game when he was coming off that injury. People are not realizing that what it's like to come off of an injury, and he did. And he balled out. He had he was credited with 13 tackles, 11 solo, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 breakup. That breakup probably saved a lot of yards. Hey, we got our first call coming in. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling. And what is your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Tim, what's going on, man? LV Live, man, New York City. How are you, man? Fight on.
Fight on. How you doing?
All right, man. See, I'm calling quite a few, man. You guys are talking about great stuff, man. You guys are doing a great job over there.
Well, we got a great setup. Mark gives us a great platform. And, anytime I can work with Matt, it's just, again, if you guys aren't checking out stuff over at Trojans Wire, I've been telling you this for over a year now, just top-notch stuff. Make sure you go in there checking out all of his stuff, as well as everyone on the site, just covering USC as good as anybody. LV, what did you want to talk about? We got a couple topics. We can hit them all if you want.
Yeah, I mean, first topic is, I know a lot of people are complaining and nervous and going crazy about last week. I just think it's really good for people to take a step back and realize that, SC was up 41-14, man, midway through third quarter. I mean, we got to really pay attention to that. It'd be a totally different if it was kind of like, it was like a back and forth game, 28-24 or 27-23 or something. That wasn't the case. USC had this game in hand. I think that they pretty much took the brakes off and kind of slowed down a bit, you know what I mean, based on how Riley was calling it. And that's the sense that I got from the game when I rewatched it. First time you kind of see it, you're like, oh, okay, this looks crazy. But when I rewatched it, I realized how controlled they were of the game. So I'm really, believe it or not, I'm not too concerned about Arizona. Going to South Bend, I'm more concerned about. But I'm not too concerned about Arizona. I think they'll tighten things up and get better. Just rewatching the game. I advise anybody here, if you can, rewatch the game and just see how in control USC was pretty much midway through the third quarter. And then you just kind of see guys just kind of like just playing laps, like they were relaxing. That's why you've seen them missing tackles. I don't even think they were as locked in as they should have been, as if it was the beginning of the game. That's just my perception on it. Once again, everybody, I suggest you guys watch that game over, and then you'll see. And then when I did that, I kind of started to feel a little bit better about them. If they are able to finish, that's the key word we should use, finish, all the way through 60-minute game from beginning to end. Let's just get that, and I think you're really going to see a true contender this year, because the offense, Caleb Williams, is light years above Shador. Shador at one point, he only passed for maybe like 20 yards or something like that. He was dipping and dunking. He couldn't do anything. Mm-hmm. The defense was all over him. He was making bad decisions, everything. So I think once we start doing that, I think we're going to be better. I also think that we're going to play better at South Bend too when we get out there as well. And like I said, once again, rewatching it again, Mason Cobb was a monster in the middle. He was laying big hits in that middle, filling the hole really good as a linebacker. So I don't know. I just think that we're going to be fine. Everybody just got to take a step back and breathe, but I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah, no, I like Matt alluded to, and I've said, and pretty much everyone all week, a lot of people were eating crow. I heard all the people talking crap and after the ASU game or during the ASU game on the post game show. People were calling in saying, "Guy only had 1 tackle," and I'm like, give him a chance to get back and get healthy and get right, because he did. And he shut up a lot of people this week. Mason should be very proud of the way he played. I'm fully on board.
Yeah, he played really well. My only concern, honestly, guys, and just watching the game, Tackett Curtis looks lost, man. He looks lost out there. And it's understandable. He's a freshman, right? Some guys mature quicker than others, like Zach Branch. He's maturing really, really fast, right? He looks like one of the better players in the nation. That's how good he looks. Tackett Curtis, you can kind of see that he's getting used to the speed of the game. He's like, he's struggling with it a bit. Also, too, I don't know if you guys know, when he played in Louisiana, he played in a couple of leagues lower than those higher tier teams. So as far as competition goes, I think this might be like a new thing for him, like as far as the speed and the skill of these players. So I just think it's just the coaches should just ease him in a bit, maybe give him a couple of sets where he can blitz off the edge, you know what I mean? Because in high school, he played deep back. He played like safety kind of like. He didn't really play too close to the line if anybody sees his tapes. So just kind of like give him a chance to kind of readjust because it's hurting the kid. You can see it. I'm watching. I'm like, this guy looks like he's lost, man. Like he just, I'm watching the game. But then when you see Rajon Davis come in and then you see Gentry come in, those guys, you could see they're college players. They're mature. They're able to deal with the speed and stuff like that. So that's my only concern, if they're just trying to force too much onto him too soon. I don't know. What say you guys in regards to that?
What do you think, Matt?
I mean, I think that's fundamentally accurate that he's still adjusting. And I think a key point to attach to that is that USC's schedule has been so soft. I mean, it was really soft through the first 4 weeks of the season. And Colorado represented a level of skill, a level of talent that was significantly better than what USC had been seeing. Like in some years, you play a really good team early in the season. Like, when David Shaw had Stanford at a high level, that early week 2 game against the Trees, it was a big game. It was a tough game. Like, that required a lot from USC, when Stanford was really good. But this year, Stanford, didn't offer that kind of challenge, not even close. Nevada didn't. San Jose State, played kind of sort of okay for a half. But like USC did not get exposed to, a really high level of talent until this Colorado game. And that's another thing that makes this Arizona game interesting. After USC finally got a look at, solid talent, not elite talent. Like, we're not going to conflate Colorado with Oregon and Washington, all right? But like, it was significantly better than what USC had seen up to this point. So now that you've been exposed to a little bit more speed on the perimeter, you've been exposed to much more of a pass-centric offense than what USC had been seeing. Now let's see what's the follow-up against Arizona. And like, after these guys have, were thrown a little bit off balance by Colorado's better talent and better passing game, what's the response this week against Arizona? It's going to be very intriguing to see.
Yeah, and it's a bit disappointing to see that.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, it's just a bit disappointing to see that the best tackler on the team right now that's getting significant playing time is Jalen Smith, and grading out like 76, according to PFF. And then the other guys that are any better or around that range are guys who got spot play, like Zion Branch, Braylon Shelby, Covington, Stanley T, guys like that. And then I hate when I listen to too much stuff on the radio, but you look at our linebackers, and the tackling on the linebackers has been poor to wretched. And that's not what you want to hear about your linebacking crew. And I can give, so we talked a little earlier, you were talking, like you talked about Tackett Curtis and the speed, trying to get you adjusted to the speed of the game. Then what's the excuse to the rest of our guys taking such horrible pursuit angles and on their tackling? Because you watch it, they're coming lateral. They're not, they're letting guys run past them because they're taking bad angles. I mean, that's fun. Tackling and taking the right angle, those are fundamentals these guys should have came with from high school. And I know these guys are good, but it makes you scratch your head that they're playing poorly, playing out of their minds at time, and then playing so poorly in some fundamental spots.
Well, Tim, my answer to that is this: what I've seen. I play, like I said, I played high school and I played football in high school and college. And the thing that is so important is reps. And the thing is that what I'm noticing is Grinch is kind of like rotating these guys so much. You got to have a set, your starters. These are my guys. Because if not, you're going to see guys come in and they're unsure of themselves when they shouldn't be. They've been playing football since they was in middle school, Pee Wee, or Pop Warner, whatever.
Yeah.
So guys are coming in and they're unsure. So I think that he's got to have his set guys. Like to me, I don't even know why Gentry isn't playing. I hope it's an injury, but you're getting misquoted. You get stories. Maybe he does. There's never a solid answer with Riley and his crew, but it's fine, whatever. But to me, the best linebackers that they have is Gentry and Cobb. Those guys have to play. They got to get their reps in. You see Cobb. He was rusty against ASU. He looked like a totally different player. The player that we knew was coming over from Oklahoma State. That's what we saw last weekend.
Yeah.
That's because of the reps. He's got to play. So you got to do the same thing with Gentry. If Gentry says he's okay, you got to play him. We're trying to win games. I'm confused as to why you're trying to force feed Tackett Curtis. We haven't seen any glimpse of Shane Lee. So it's really, really confusing as to why he's jumping all over the place with those things. So to your point, they shouldn't be.
I'm going to step in here.
Themselves.
I'm going to step in here. The rotations, there's a very specific reason for these rotations. I mean, and like with Mason Cobb playing a lot against ASU, even though he was rusty, playing Mason Cobb a lot against Arizona State did not maximize the output for USC's defense because Cobb was, dealing with rust. He was trying to get back into the flow. And so I made the point that the coaching staff sacrificed a measure of production in that game for the greater goal of making sure that Cobb, got back into the flow of everything on defense. Also, to your point, that your best players need to play. So that also figured into it as well. But big picture, the rotations, all of these rotations, and I do agree that you eventually do need to settle on your guys. And you do eventually need to have, these are the guys I'm riding with, and these are the guys who go into a game expecting they're going to be the lead dogs for a position group, for a defense, etc. But the reason for the rotations, the 9 straight games that USC's playing from September 23rd, this Arizona game is going to be the 3rd game in that 9-game rotation. Coaching for a 12-game season and coaching to make sure this team is not exhausted and spent when it gets to the big ones against Washington and Oregon in November, that's definitely a part. Maybe it's not the main part. Now, that's where I think we can have a real debate in terms of how much weight the coaching staff is giving to various competing needs and tension points. But just to get to your specific point about all the rotations and how many of them we've had in the first month of the season, it's because of the 9 straight weeks and making sure the fuel tank doesn't run on empty when we get into November.
Yeah. Hey, so really quickly,
okay.
What are you thinking about this? So get your thoughts on the schedule for the 2024 schedule. So here's the 2024 schedule. We know now that we're playing Nebraska, Penn State, Rutgers, Wisconsin at home. Then we're going to have Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Washington, and UCLA on the road. What do you think about that schedule? And remember, also, we're playing LSU as well, so keep that in mind.
I was just about to say that. I was about to say that we were opening up with LSU, and then also too we got to squeeze in Notre Dame, right? That's our rival, right? So what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing a schedule here that if USC does what they're supposed to do, they should be in the playoff next year with no problem.
Oh, they should be number one.
They should be number one, right? This is, I mean, they're locked and loaded, ready. I mean, this gives what I love about this. This doesn't have any question marks, right? You win these games, and even if you lose one, let's say we lose one at the big house, right, at Michigan, right? That's still going to leave them in a powerful position with beating LSU, beating Notre Dame, beating Penn State, beating Wisconsin at home. That's still a Big Ten power. Beating Washington away over there, up in there, and Seattle. Then, of course, you're beating the Bruins over there in the Rose Bowl, right? So if you're winning those games, that should easily have them as probably the number one team, at least top 5 in the nation. So to me, this is the importance of going to the Big Ten, because now you're getting big time games on a big time network, either on CBS or Channel 4, to where it's being like prime time for them to be able to see exactly. Now, of course, Caleb won't be here, but depending on who's going to be the quarterback, if it's going to be, Miller time, or if it's going to be, I forget the other kid. No, it was Nelson, right? No, not Nelson. I'm sorry, I can't get his name. So we got to see exactly what this, but this to me gives us exactly the, how can I say, the visibility for people that can't see the West Coast games because it's coming on so late, or if it's on the Pac-12 network. Now we're on primetime television, the way the teams can really see, and we don't get the bias that we've been getting in these AP rankings, right? Because it's atrocious how bad they treat us, right? So now us winning these games, there's no excuses. We beat LSU, we beat Notre Dame, we beat Penn State at home, we beat Wisconsin. Now it's no questions. Even if we lose one against Michigan in the Big House, I think we're good.
Okay, I'm telling. Hold on. The fact that we think we're only losing one out of that schedule. I mean, LV, I love you, but that schedule we're playing Penn State and Michigan, LSU and Notre Dame and Washington, and we're playing at the Big House and we're playing at Husky Stadium. I mean, that schedule.
Tim, we got Notre Dame at home, Tim. That's how I'm thinking of it.
That's a good one.
Notre Dame at home. We got Penn State at home. It's not like the only tricky one is opening day to me, which is neutral site LSU. They're going to have a lot of people coming back. So we, of course, Lincoln Riley, he's going to hit the transfer portal hard, right? So to me, that's going to be the tricky one. If we come out of that unscathed, no injuries, and we can go into that schedule leading up to that game up there in Ann Arbor, which is a toss-up because it's tough to play up there. Everyone knows, and we can get out of that schedule with one loss. Come on, Tim. We're top 5 easy. Maybe top 2 in the nation.
Gotta make the point here. Next year, remember, 12-team playoff. So, of course, if USC loses just once, it's in. If USC loses just twice, it's still going to be a lock with all those high-end wins on the schedule. Because, we're conditioned to think. You got to have just one loss. And in the 4-team playoff era, that's true. The Pac-12 champion is needed to be 12-1. You can't have 2. But in the 12-team playoff era, an elite team playing an elite schedule and going 11-2 will definitely get in. USC is an absolute lock against that schedule getting in.
Hey guys,
okay. One more thing, Tim. Can you just bring up the schedule one more time? Just one more time, Tim.
Yeah, sure.
Before I go.
Yep, here we go. You got it?
LB. I kind of got a delay here because I got you right now. Okay, so Tim, take a look, Tim, just really quick before I go. If where do you see a loss on here?
A guaranteed
outside
loss?
Of Michigan, where do you see a loss?
I don't see any guaranteed.
Right,
I don't see any guaranteed losses, but I see 3 really tough games. I'm assuming LSU gets right, and then I think that gave me tough. But listen, we're not going to call that. We call that neutral. But do you know how SC fans travel? And if we're only going to Las Vegas, that's next door. They're gonna pack that little stadium. But going to Michigan, going to Washington, and then on the road to UCLA. That's tough. And then you are playing Penn State at home, but it's still Penn State. There's a couple cupcakes on there, but
a cupcake. But we play better at home, right? So my only thing. Now I'm kind of looking at it again. I'm not worried about Washington. The reason why they're losing Penix and all those receivers there, everyone's going to the league next year there. So I'm not worried about that. The tricky one, Tim, is you got to look at UCLA at the Rose Bowl. Dante Moore's coming back. He's going to have a year underneath his belt. He's going to be lock and load. They say he's the next Caleb Williams. I don't agree, but he's a hell of a talent. So that can be a tricky game right there, going to the Rose Bowl, playing against that kid if he's healthy and can live up to the potential that they say.
I got you, LV. I got to get better at this because we've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people called in. And I told Matt I'd be better about this. I love you calling in, LV. Thank you so much for calling in.
Of course, I love you guys. Great job.
All right.
Fight on, guys. Fight on.
Fight on, LV. All right. So I apologize to everyone that had called in. We're still learning here. We're going to get better at this, but we got another call coming in right now. Hi, thanks for calling. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Smiles calling from Arizona.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks
Okay.
for taking my call.
Sure. So which topic did you want to talk about?
I had something a little off track maybe. Jen Cohen is the AD, and now that the big schedule is done, she had a lot of input on that, I'm sure. Now it's time for her to do her number one job, which is to extend Lincoln Riley's contract. He's a year and a half in, so that means he basically has 8 years left. He said this summer in a interview that he recorded that's been released a couple of weeks ago that he's got about 10 years left in football. So if we want him to stay at USC, we need to get an extension for those other 2 years and perhaps double his buyout to play defense against someone trying to proselyte him.
Well, I mean, I think the only way he's going to the NFL, and if he's going to go to the NFL, I mean, the way the NFL money is and contracts, I think that he's not going to sign any kind of a contract that would stop him from getting an NFL job. I'm not sure. Maybe Matt, you know more about it, but a lot of these coaches do have these outs that aren't the same thing if they go to the NFL. I have no idea what his contract is, but I would say a 10-year contract's pretty solid. I think that most likely, I would love to think that he's going to be at USC forever. I do think the next step is going to be the NFL. What do I know? But I think in year 2, I mean, it'd be great if we could lock him up for a long-term contract, but I'd have to be honest in saying that I'm not too concerned about that right now. Matt, do you have any concerns about the contract?
My main thing would be this, and USC fans who know their history, they remember that when Pat Hayden was mulling over the decision of whether to make Clay Helton permanent head coach, he made him permanent head coach before, not after, before the 2015 Pac-12 championship game against Stanford. And then USC gets dump trucked by Christian McCaffrey and Stanford, and Pat Hayden and USC were stuck with Clay Helton. They could have at least allowed that game to happen and then maybe considered the decision, and it might have turned out differently had Pat Hayden waited a week. So in my mind, in terms of like making offering Lincoln an extension or like sweetening the pot for Lincoln Riley, you do that if he makes the playoff. Like you wait until you see that high-end result this year to do something like that. Because if USC goes 9-3, if USC doesn't make the Pac-12 championship game, that would not be the time to put all the poker chips into the middle of the table for Lincoln Riley. So I think you have to keep it results based. It's only year 2. I mean, and I think he wants to stay at USC for the next several years. But on the off chance that the move to the Big Ten, secretly, privately, inwardly, is something that he really doesn't like, and maybe the thing with Luca Evans, the Orange County Register reporter, just kind of unsettled him, and maybe he's privately grumbling. I'm not making any predictions here, but I'm just saying, like, you do want to make sure that if you are going all in with Lincoln Riley more than you already are now, you need to have a high-end accomplishment attached to that. I would say at the very least, if USC doesn't make the playoff, USC at least has to win the Pac-12 title for you to.
Well, I mean, I'm already all in, Matt. I'm already in, Matt. He's made the playoffs 3 times. I mean, he's a proven coach.
But if he's going to go down with the Alex Grinch ship,
he will.
That is that the time to go all in with that? I don't think so.
Right. Really quickly, do you have thoughts on the on the news schedule? Who do you think would be our toughest game, and where would you like, if you were at a ticket to go to any of the away games coming up in 2024 and 2025, which school would you want to attend the game for the most?
The Michigan game would be the experience of a lifetime.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm definitely going to try to maybe, I don't know, I might have to sell someone else's house and my house to get that ticket, but I agree with you. I think that's something I would absolutely love to see. Thank you. So sorry, what was your name again?
Matt, this is Smiles. Steve Miles. I go by Smiles.
Oh yeah, how you doing? Yeah, I've seen you in the comments many times.
Matt may want to review his notes from last year. He had a series called The Riley Files, done by Keegan Renault. Extremely good. Guy Zemenza, kind of like Riley Zemenza. He's really a stats nut. Anyway, he did a series called the Riley Files, and he reported that Joe Castiglione, the AD for OU, had an extension on Riley's desk for the majority of his last season at OU. He was planning to extend him. Riley did not take that seriously because Riley had other ideas. Now, no one thought he was going to leave OU, so guess what? Now he's at the USC. I don't think he's going to leave USC. I think he wants to be there for the majority of the 10 years that he has left. He says he has left to coach. However, things happen. $15 million will stop USC's offense. That's the only way you can stop it. You start paying him $15 million a year. Somebody, maybe Alabama, because Saban is not going to coach another 10 years. He's 72 years old. I can say that because I'm 70. He's not going to coach another 10 years. Would they pay $15 million a year to have Riley take over for Saban? I think they would.
Awesome. Smiles, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate you calling in. Hope you call in again soon. Take care.
I will do it.
Yeah, I think that we're lucky that Riley has young girls and the family seems like they're happy here. He seems like a family guy. He seems like he loves his family. You know, beautiful home, gorgeous environment. He can actually go out like they talk about and not be the small guy in Tuscaloosa or in Norman. So I think we have a lot going for us as far as that. Next call coming in. Thank you, caller. Your name and where you calling from?
It's Avery, all the way from Georgia. What's up? What's up?
Avery, thanks for calling in again. How you doing?
Doing all right about yourself, man?
Doing good. Just trying to turn these phone calls. I'm very bad. I now have I've got 9 people hung up. You 9 people, I'm very sorry. I'm getting better at this. I promise. Avery, what did you want to talk about today?
Oh, man, I just wanted to address some of the initial topics that you guys threw out there. Linebacker play, future games in the Big Ten. And then, honestly, I've been following the show since early in the week. I wanted to talk to Matt about some of the coach speak that Coach Lincoln Riley had articulated early in the week. And then we just go from there.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn pretty fast. So try to pick 1 or 2 of those things we could talk about. I don't want to cut you short, but we're probably trying to do this as maybe a couple of minutes. So I appreciate you calling. What did you want to talk about first?
It sounded like you were in the Matrix. Say it again.
Oh, just wondering, what did you want to talk about first?
Well, we'll start off with the coach speak that Coach Lincoln Riley kind of gave early in the week or at the end of last week's game, where he was saying that, we weren't making the same mistakes as we were last year or however, whatever. Hey, look, man, I've been following the program the last 15, 20 years. That sounded like a cliche fresh out of Clay Helton's playbook, man. And I think he's a better man than that to be saying stuff like that. I don't know, man. Like I'm really, really high on the team, but I just see so many areas of opportunity that I'm just nervous, man. That was definitely one of the beginnings. And then I know you guys alluded to the linebacker shuffling or whatnot. I definitely agree. I was on the Mason Cobb bandwagon earlier. He wasn't looking too good. He definitely looked pretty solid last week. I don't know what has Rayshawn Davis done not to get more PT. I really wrote this down. I thought about this too. The Pac-12 within itself is one of the most unique conferences that each week you play a diverse, different set of offenses. And I really, really thought that one of the things that could be an our benefit was having a roster that we can play multiple different type of guys different weeks. And I don't see it all the time. I kind of think we get stuck in our own way and play the same or however, whatever that goes. And then I know Matt also mentioned that Colorado was one of the better passing teams that we faced throughout the first 4 or 5 games of the season. Wholeheartedly agree with that. But my first thought process is the defense is practiced against arguably the best offense in the nation. How can they not be able to stop that and then go out here and kind of stink it up against Colorado? So no. And then lastly, I saw the Big Ten schedule. I don't really feel like there's really a game out there that's going to keep us from winning. But I am concerned about Penn State, right? I know that in the event that we don't get rid of Grinch, that Penn State's going to try to run it down our throat. I'm not sold on Drew Allen. I think he's not hot to me. The LSU game, I'm definitely going to try to be there, try to get me some tickets to be there. But this is really it, man. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but yeah, that's where I'm at so far.
Let me make one comment. I'm going to hand over to Matt. The Michigan thing, you got to remember, we're losing Caleb, but UCLA, Michigan's losing everyone too. JJ McCarthy's probably gone. They lose Blake Corum's gone. Edwards gone. So they're going to lose, linemen gone. So they're going to be restarting as well a little bit over there. Matt, what are your thoughts about the schedule? We tipped it a little bit, but anything you want to add to it?
The main thing about the Big Ten schedule is that if USC splits Michigan, Washington, should be fine. Like you should be able to win all the home games. You split Michigan and Washington, you should be able to go 8-1 in the Big Ten, and that's going to be a lock for the playoff.
I'm still here, guys.
Okay, sorry about that.
Hello?
I just wanted you to cover that for me, Matt. I had to go fix my camera. Okay, so Avery, and then as far as the linebacker is concerned, one of these linebackers has to separate themselves. Like Mason Cobb did last week. You need to have Mason Cobb follow that up with what he did. And then you talked about what does Rajon have to do? When Rajon gets on the field, he's got to make tackles. He can't miss tackles. He's just got to be the guy. One of these guys has to step up and say, you know what? I'm getting my shot here. I'm going to have gap integrity. I'm going to make my run fits and I'm going to make my tackles. And I'll bet you if one of those guys we just talked about does that, then they're in.
Definitely. I agree with that. I definitely would say this, and you put me on last week, even though I already had saw it. Hey, Dejon Benton had a great game last week. So I'm hoping that whatever is transpiring in practice, that they can manifest itself or roll its way over from practice into the games, and each week it'd be another individual. That did make me feel good. But having said that, if he's shining, does that mean he's going to start for number 47? I think he should start next to Bear if he's playing better than number 47. That's just my thought process on that.
It's probably how they practice, how they play, and I think these guys that are being shuffled back and forth, one of them has to earn the job. I mean, that's what I would say. If it was my kid, I'd say you just got to step up and you got to make the plays. If you make the plays, you're gonna. I'm not buying the favorites thing. You know what I mean? That's not happening. I think this coaching staff's waiting for one of these guys to separate themselves, and I just don't think anyone really has. Matt?
I'm inclined to agree. I think if some guy was, just like if his talent, his quality was just too great to ignore on the field, like they wouldn't choose him. If a guy is really responding well in practice and he's doing well, doing what the coaches are asking of him, that they're going to give him a look. I really do think that they're not seeing the separation that they're hoping for, that they're wishing for. Yeah, I think Tim's definitely right on this one.
All right, Avery. Thanks a lot. Hey, I'd love to have you on longer, but we have to move on. Hope you call in next week.
Definitely.
All right. Take care.
Good to talk to you guys. Hope to talk to you after the already.
All right. Fight on, man.
Thank you.
So we just got the rolling in. So we got another call coming in. I know this phone number. Rusty, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Doing great. Thanks for so much calling in. So we're just covering a couple of things. Linebacker situation. No one's really touched on, is Arizona going to be a trap game or a get better game, right? And then the last thing is just we kind of went over I'm sure I saw you you put out there the schedule, that you're the reason why I knew there was that the schedule had been announced. You want to start there?
Yeah. I guess I'll start with the schedule, right? So really excited for the next couple of years. Especially we have a lot of really cool crowds coming in: Iowa, Nebraska, Michigan. I was talking to my wife earlier, and we were discussing which away games we want to hit next year, and both of us kind of looked at each other and said Michigan. Absolutely Michigan. It just seems like such a cool game to get to experience. And that's been number one on my list of Big Ten stadiums I want to see, despite the tens of hundreds of Ohio State fans in my mentions that say that I shouldn't want to go there. But that's beside the point. Super excited about it.
Yeah, no matter what I do, my camera's still lagging pretty hard. I'm not sure if on your end, same as mine. Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. I think it's to be a hell of a gauntlet. And thank God, Matt, you reminded me of the fact that this thing is going to be a 12-team playoff, because I don't see anywhere USC gets this thing unscathed. Any thoughts on the linebackers?
I am myself less concerned about the linebackers given Mason Cobb's performance. Eric Gentry hopefully coming back to full speed. In my opinion, Tackett Curtis, he's just green, right? He's played safety in high school, so coming back from a little bit further back on the field, constantly coming downfield is a little bit different for him. So I kind of give it that. Given where he was in high school to where he is today, like that's obviously a way different position, not being in coverage and stuff like that. So that's what I kind of chop that up to. I think he plays fast, and he'll eventually, kind of adjust. Eric Gentry will be, obviously a solid player for us. We always seem to look better when we're on the field, whether it's his length or athleticism. I was reading some notes for 24/7 this week that he kind of, was kind of laying the thunder on a couple of guys. So hopefully that'll be something to watch out for. And then Rayshawn Davis, just knowing how athletic he is in space, although he can get lost at times, I think generally he's extremely talented. For me, it's just, we've got to get the rotation right. I think you guys were talking about that multiple times, that the rotation just needs to get right. We got to be able to play the players that can make a difference in the game. We can't just be kind of messing around once we get towards Notre Dame, although we'll talk about Arizona in a second. But we can't be dancing around, playing, whoever is, kind of freshest or, whatever it is for the coaches of that week. We got to have the best players on the field, especially for the gauntlet of the last half of the season. So that's kind of my thought there. But, I'm ultimately more concerned about the DBs, specifically the corners. I think that's our weakest spot. Kalen Bullock, he'll always be kind of our stud back there. But outside of that, there's just seems to be a lack of talent. So that's my biggest concern. I know somebody talked about earlier that Colorado, we looked good for 60, 70% of the game, and I'll agree with that. Part of me wants to chop it up to, altitude, waking up early, traveling in late, a lot of those things, which, was partially true. But, we obviously have to play a full game, and hopefully we can see that for Arizona this week.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Roland Wallace came in at the corner, and I think he shot. He played well. They weren't throwing at him, so that shows you something as well. And the only time really it seemed like they went down, Shedeur went deep on them, was on that play where he had the free play on the offsides that he knew he's gonna just throw it up there, and that kid just made an amazing one-arm catches with Covington draped all over him. So I think that you're right. I think we can get better at safety. The good news is our secondary doesn't have to be that strong, because apparently we have the number one defensive line when it comes to getting pressuring the quarterback, and we know we've been up there in sacks and tackles for loss. So they keep that pressure going on up front. It can make up some discrepancies on the back end. But I agree with you. I think the back end's an issue. Matt, you worried about the secondary?
Certainly. And, Colorado, what it was able to do, like if Colorado can do that, then, what are Oregon and Washington going to do? It's an obvious point of concern. But of course, having said that, Oregon and Washington look really scary against USC's secondary, I'm also going to say, and this is something I've been mentioning over the past few days, before the season, if you were looking at the Notre Dame and Utah games before the season and assessing the threat level of those games, and now you compare your view of the Notre Dame and Utah games in August, and you compare that to now in early October, what would your view be? I am more confident about Notre Dame and Utah as opposed to late August. Like late August, it was a total mystery. Having seen what I've seen of Notre Dame's and Utah's offenses, I am now more confident that USC is going to be able to win each of those two games, because those offenses don't push the ball down the field. And I saw today, Cam Rising said his injuries were more severe than previously thought. He's talking like a guy who might not even play on October 14th against Cal. And if he doesn't play against Cal on October 14th, that means he has no warm-up. He has no lead-in game before USC on October 21st. So, like, I'm worried about Oregon and Washington, but I'm gaining more confidence in spite of all the defensive issues and in spite of all the problems at corner. I'm gaining more confidence each day, each week about the Notre Dame and Utah game, just because the specifics of the matchups and the specific ways in which you can hurt this USC defense, they don't line up with Notre Dame's and Utah's strengths or capabilities. Like those two offenses are not uniquely suited to expose USC's defense at its weakest points.
Yeah. Rusty, again, you guys, for those of you guys don't, well, let me just do this super chat real quick. So Matt Rinson, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. So as you say, in the future, USC will play Stanford or Cal in non-league games. I mean, I can see that because those are our two longest time rivals. We played them more than anybody else in college football, including Notre Dame. But the thing is with, you just saw this schedule. I mean, look at the schedule USC has to play. And now Cal's kind of come up a little bit. Stanford's down right now, but would you want to play Stanford and Cal when they're like a legitimate Power 5 team? When you have, you're playing Notre Dame and then you're playing, either an Ohio State, a Michigan, a Penn State, that's assuming Nebraska and Wisconsin don't get their stuff together. It's going to be a pretty nasty schedule. And I wonder if they're going to start lining up some lesser competition this year. Yeah. Stanford is in that lesser competition category. I'd probably rather play Stanford than Fresno State this year. But I mean, in the average year, you don't know how these teams line up. So I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? Rusty, what do you think first?
Personally, I think that we want to play Stanford and Cal just from a travel perspective.
Good point.
And from a revenue perspective. Just because, we're going to have to pay $1.5-2 million for some of these teams to come in eventually. So if we can kind of mitigate the cost that way, especially if, travel costs are going up. I'd like to see Cal. I'd like to see Stanford. Hopefully we can get on some sort of rotation where we're playing them on the road or playing them at home, something of that nature. Obviously Stanford being our oldest rival, you want to kind of continue that. So hopefully that's something we're looking into. Personally, I would drop Notre Dame. I know that's going to be kind of a hot topic. I would drop Notre Dame like tomorrow. We don't need them. I know it's an old rival. We don't need them. If we kind of prop them up as they kind of stay independent, it kind of just allows them to continue doing what they're doing. And I think that we should, absolutely get rid of that rivalry. There's no benefit to us, especially if we're traveling to the Midwest, every week, every 2 weeks, etc. So I know it's going to be a hot topic. Hopefully it's something that we kind of look at and kind of look at it in greater detail. But that's just kind of my 2 cents there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I said something similar during when we first started talking about schedules back in June when we got it. I said traveling to the Midwest, that's just one more trip to the Midwest, and if they want to play us, they could join the Big Ten and be part of, and then they could be our rival in the Big Ten, and that saves us one more trip to the Midwest. So I kind of agree with you. I think it might be time to put some leverage on Notre Dame and say that. Granted, we've seen with Notre Dame they'll drop Michigan or Michigan State off their schedule. So, who knows? But again, we're not Michigan or Michigan State. I think we're a more serious rival than those schools. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Matt, your thoughts on that topic, especially with Notre Dame? Now, hold on. I would say TV would try to kill us. The networks say, no, you can't do that. You got to keep playing them. And they got a lot of power these days. But I think it make a lot of big sense for USC and the Big Ten.
Getting rid of USC Notre Dame is like getting rid of Dodgers Yankees. That's college football to me. I'll leave it at that.
Well, that college football died a while ago, though, Matt, and it's just dying every year. Yeah. So, Texas stopped playing. There what you had
A&M.
All A&M. You had all those big rivalries that kind of stopped because of conference realignment. It's not like this one's untouchable. And you know what? The Irish can fix that. Join the Big Ten, and then it's not an issue. We play every year. You're our rival, and every year we play you in the conference game. So I agree with that. Rusty, you've given me a bunch of your time as always. Thank you so much for calling. You guys, if you're not checking out Fight on Rusty on Twitter, absolutely hilarious. Just the greatest trolls you could ever imagine. But also on top of that, just so much information, Rusty. Really appreciate talking to you every time we get a chance.
Yeah, of course, guys. Take care. Fight on.
Fight on, Rusty. And I know, so I already heard you're no way you're doing that one, Matt. You're all about keeping that rivalry. But I mean, it's not like we have to get rid of it. I'm just saying, put a little pressure on it. Hi, thanks for calling. What's your name? And so, sorry. Hi, what's your name and where are you calling from?
On.
I'm sorry, we caught the end of that. What was the first part?
Dave from Iowa.
Dave from Iowa. How you doing?
Dave.
Good, man. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. We got the topics on the table. The latest one we had is keeping you at, maybe that'll be next week. Maybe we'll do that. We'll save that one. We'll table that one for next week when we talk about, although it'll be Notre Dame week. So it's a great time to say, hey, should we keep this thing going? So I think that might be a great conversation. Thank you, Rusty, for that idea. Dave, thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, so in terms of linebackers, I mean, I understand, the hype on Eric Gentry, but the concern and the concern and the reason why it probably isn't playing it so much is just because, let's all be honest, he's a basketball body playing linebacker. I mean, like a vicious position in a vicious sport. So I feel like that's probably part of the reason, and maybe them kind of saving him for the later, more important games. So I just want to point that, number one. Two, in terms of the new Big Ten schedule, pumped about Michigan like everyone else. And then three, I was just curious. I called in and asked Ryan over on his show about it. He didn't really take it too well. But Lincoln Riley had Lincoln Riley had 2 timeouts left in both the first and second half. You're telling me he couldn't use at least one of them to kind of he couldn't use one of them to for the defense in terms of settle the guys down when Colorado, is at that point in the second half was peaking, so to speak. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You can't take them with you, right? Matt, what do you think?
I mean, I think that the defensive timeout to rest and reset your defense is underutilized throughout football at all levels by all coaches. Like, I don't know if there's a coach who uses that particular tactic consistently. So, I'm not going to beat up Lincoln Riley about it, but I would certainly agree. That's a tool in your toolbox. You certainly should have used it as a head coach. And I think, Dave, you called us on Sunday, and I know that a number of our callers on Sunday, right after the Colorado game, mentioned that Lincoln Riley needs to be a lot better at situational football. And if that's part of what you're getting at, amen. Up 6, 4th and 3 at the ASU 12-yard line, kick a field goal, go up 9. 2nd and 5, midway through the second half against Colorado with a multi-score lead. You should be running the ball on 2nd and 5, running the ball on 3rd down, and instead he goes pass. I mean, he fails to get some basic situational calculations correct. And, of course, against Notre Dame, Utah, and then especially Oregon and Washington, can't be amateur hour. You have to get those decisions right consistently if you're going to win games. So that's definitely a concern that Lincoln Riley has to be better with situational football.
Awesome. Well, hey, first of all, thank you guys for, at least agreeing with me. I don't know if I'll get Ryan on the same page. Maybe I'll have to call into the Harvey Hyatt podcast on the voicemail, and maybe Ryan will get it when he hears it from a coach. But, hey, just want to say again, thank you for the call. Fight on. You guys are doing a great job.
Fight on. Thanks so much, Dave. Yeah, you can't take him with you, Matt. That's that's a serious point. Oh, look, we know this call too. Will, how you doing? Did you hear about the Notre Dame conversation?
Yeah, I don't know what that guy's talking about, man. I don't understand what that
Will, I kind of agree with him. I've been saying to you, why don't you guys join a conference?
We're the only team that's holding up tradition in college football. We're the only team that's keeping together the tradition that makes college football great.
I'm not sure getting a gigantic contract from NBC that started this whole mess is the one. You probably shouldn't be talking about wrecking football because you guys fired the first shot.
I mean, we just wanted to stay independent. That's why we signed it. We just wanted to keep the tradition of being independent going. That's why we signed the deal.
Well, I'm saying I'm blaming all
Penn
this
State
on
couldn't do
Notre
that.
Dame way back then, the Notre Dame and the NBC deal.
You know, Will, we can agree that there needs to be an ESPN 30 for 30 on John McKay, Ara Parsegian. That's what we need. We can agree on that.
Yes, there does. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I wouldn't mind one about Lou Holtz and Larry Smith, but I don't think you would like that one as much. But anyways, who do you think is going to be starting at Arizona? Will it be Delora or will it be the other guy?
Well, Fish said that if Delora is healthy, then he's playing. If his ankle permits him, otherwise it's gonna be Fafita.
Yeah, Will. We don't know. That seems to be up in the air. But let's get into that discussion before my mom fixes me dinner here at Casa Zemek. I think the really important discussion point here, Will, is that if Delora plays, you have an Arizona offense that's going to have more of an upside, but also a lower floor because that's Delora, right? When he's spectacular, it's a fireworks show. But when he's off his game, it's horrible. But Fafita, he's very different. Like Fafita is like just that steady game manager, field general. And if it's Fafita, Arizona's going to emphasize more the running game, ball control, time of possession, won't have as much upside in terms of making splash plays down the field, but will have a higher floor in terms of like the bottom's less likely to fall out. If I'm a USC fan, I'd rather see Delora because I'd like my secondary to get challenged down the field before I face potentially, definitely Sam Hartman against your Irish, and then Cam Rising on the 21st. I would like to get tested more. Whereas if it's Fafita, it's probably not as much upside for Arizona. So that's like the importance of whether Arizona goes with Delora or Fafita. We don't know what it's going to be, but like you're going to see different games based on which guy is starting.
Yeah, like definitely as a neutral fan, I would like to see if Delora can if USC can hold Delora to not a game sort of game that Shedeur Sanders had against USC to see if they can step it up this week, especially since they're at home.
Well, and we'll be calling on you again next week to have a nice conversation. Matter of fact, make sure you call in next week. So we're going to preview the Notre Dame game and that whole thing where we might be dropping you from the schedule, Will. But thank you so much for calling. Appreciate you calling in, Will.
All right, take care, guys.
Thanks, Will.
All right, Tim, I have to be off, but if you want to take calls for the final 10, 15 minutes.
We'll see where it goes. We get a couple calls, I'll hang out. But I mean, I think we got calls rolling in, so I will. Okay. Matt, thanks again for, as always, stopping by. This show is going to be, we keep coming by on Thursday nights. We'll see how long we can keep this going.
All right. Catch Tony, Tim, and Rick for the post-game show on Saturday. Catch me with Tim on Monday, 8 p.m. in Los Angeles. Thanks, everybody.
No one. All right. See you, Matt. Just missed that call. Whoever just called in, feel free to call me back. If not, if we don't get any calls, it's been a great show again. I was going to hang around for that last call, but it took a little too long to get to him. So you guys, thanks again. Every Thursday night, we'll be doing this. Also, make sure that if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you can, because that's the way you're going to know if we're going live, because a lot of them will be unannounced. And if we have a situation where something breaking news that we think is worthwhile and the Trojan family wants to talk about it, we will be going live. Unless someone gives me a call in the next minute or so, I think we're going to call it a wrap. But as was just talked about, when Matt said that we will be going live right after the home game with the Wildcats on Saturday night, and also Monday night. Make sure you're coming to check us out. We're always here for now it's called the Conquest show. Make sure you come check us out, because I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about going in. We will be covering the Notre Dame game in quite some detail during the show. As always, I'll be joined with Mark and Matt. And again, if there's something comes up at the game, who knows what goes on during this game on Saturday. If we feel it necessary, we will go live. So make sure you are subscribed and make sure you hit that notification bell if you'd like to see us when we pop up to do another live call-in show. So once again, thank you so much. We'll be here every Thursday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. And we hope to see you after the for the post-game show after the USC Arizona game on Saturday. So remember, guys, it's going to be a long season. We're still 5-0. Make sure you're enjoying it out there. And we'll see you at the next week on the call-in show next Thursday at 6 p.m. Bye on, everybody.